Welcome to the job, Nick.
I want to ask you something kind of on the spiritual side, because
Okay.
on one sense, I'm Jewish, and since October 7th, I've definitely felt a renewed spirit. I've always loved Israel and had a connection there, but I've felt something. I think a lot of Jews are feeling that. And one of the things I've been saying on my show is that, you know, every holiday we celebrate the fact that we weren't all destroyed, we survived, we eat. And I think the survival part is kind of built in. It's sort of baked into the way that it works for the Jews in a way.
Right.
And I just wonder, well, I suppose you agree with that, but do you feel that as you're part of this country right now? Do you think the people really feel that this is just a continuation of a story that is at least 5,000 years old? That's not the question you're going to get on CNN.
No. I think you're right. I think, you know, we believe that in every generation there are those who rise up to destroy us. And they're defeated. We believe that they're defeated also by, you know, by somebody who we have in our corner for about 4,000 years.
Right.
I would say when I was Israel's ambassador in Washington that I met a lot of ambassadors, many that we don't have diplomatic relations with. There's 192, 194 ambassadors in Washington. I must have met 150 or 160, maybe more. Never met the ambassador of Babylon. Never met the ambassador of Imperial Rome. And I didn't meet the ambassador of the Thousand-Year Reich, but there is an ambassador of Israel. So I'm quite confident that we're going to survive this enemy. And people who don't understand what it means when you put the Jews back in their historic homeland and their willingness to fight against anybody. Look, we fought the Greeks, you know, and they left us that holiday of Hanukkah and one of the worst diets.
Don't tell her that.
We fought the Greeks and won. We were one of the only peoples in antiquity who were able to do that. We went against Rome. Think about that. Fighting against the world superpower at the time in order to defend ourselves in our land. I mean, Hamas, with all due respect to Sinwar and Hamas, you know, we've seen much bigger than him, and he will be in the dustbin of history. This Hamas terror organization is going to be wiped out. But I believe, and maybe it's because I'm a person of faith, you know, I believe in the eternity of the Jewish people, 100%. But we have to understand, we've lost our sovereignty in the land of Israel before. We lost it twice. And this is the third chance we have. And what we need to do, I think one of the most important things, is to remain united as a people within Israel, to understand and appreciate what's the meaning of Jewish sovereignty. We're a 4,000-year-old people. How much of that time were we a sovereign people? Well, there was a few centuries from the time Joshua crosses the Jordan to Nebuchadnezzar came from Babylon and destroyed the first temple. And then there was another period of sovereignty for about a century when the Maccabees re-won their freedom. And for the last 75 years, we've been a sovereign people too. So less than a quarter of the time that we've been a people, we have had sovereignty in our ancient homeland. And so that's a precious gift that was given to us by the generations who fought for Israel's independence, who won Israel's independence, and who built the country. And what we have to do, what I see my role as leaders, is you get past this precious gift. The baton is now in your hands. You're going to run your leg of the race, and you have to leave the country in a stronger position than you found it, and make sure that you secure this priceless gift for future generations. And I believe that we will.
Is that the irony of what's happening right now? Because when I was here in May, there was this big fight over judicial reform, and there were protests on both sides each way, and everyone kept saying how divided the country was and all that stuff. And now there seems to be almost no division here, which, you know, you put 3 Jews at a table, you got 8 opinions. I mean, it's kind of shocking, and yet again, I think it's sort of baked in.
Right. I think that's true. And, you know, I don't know yet. I haven't seen that it was the disunity in the months before that triggered this particular attack. You know, there'll be a commission of inquiry, and they'll have to look at all the evidence there. I haven't seen that, but I definitely think it didn't help. And I think when you're divided, you're projecting a weakness to your enemies. And unfortunately, Israel has a lot of enemies. And it's important, I think, to project internal strength. I think that that radiates throughout the region. And I hope in the wake of October 7th that we will find a way to keep this country as united as its soldiers. I mean, you see that the soldiers that are there that are fighting, remember, we're a citizens' army. It's not 1 or 2% that are fighting this war. It's 50, 60, 70. They're fighting, and they're united, and the rest of the stuff, the noise that sometimes you see from the politics, they kind of tune out. And I hope we'll be able to retain this tremendous sense of unity moving forward, and that it will propel Israel forward. Look, you have a essentially a catastrophe that happens on October 7th. And the test is how you're going to respond to this catastrophe. Will we militarily defeat Hamas and deliver the Iranian axis a blow? Will we be able to maybe achieve a peace and a normalization with Saudi Arabia, which would be a diplomatic blow to that axis? We have to take this terrible tragedy and catastrophe, and we have to flip it into a strategic victory. We did it 50 years ago, by the way. We were attacked in the Yom Kippur War, and it was terrible for the first few days. Everything was reversed. We won on the battlefield, and that actually led to a peace between Israel and Egypt. Without that fight, without that Yom Kippur War, where under terrible circumstances we were able to reverse the tide and win the war, we never would have actually forged that peace. And so my hope is we're going to win the war in Gaza, hopefully deter a war in the north, and then move towards continuing to expand, which we did with the Abraham Accords, to continue to expand the peace with partners in the region that really do want to normalize with us. And I think you can see that in how they are responding, what is happening in Gaza. You know, in the Middle East, a lot of times it's not what they say, it's what they don't say. It's kind of the hound of the Baskervilles. You know, pay attention to who's not barking. Read between the lines. And I think these countries want us to win. I can tell you in my conversations with people in the region who will be nameless, you know, they all told me from the beginning, you know, defeat Hamas, destroy them, just do it in 3 weeks without any civilian casualties. So I said, where's that Harry Potter magic wand that we can wave and figure out how we're going to get there? But they want us to win. And the other thing to remember, and this bin Laden got right, he says people follow a strong horse. You know, the prime minister says, you know, people are waiting and looking and seeing who's going to win. Is this the Iranian axis and its Hamas proxy, or Israel backed by the United States? Is Israel going to win? And the way I would explain it in American terms, having been born and raised in the United States, before 2016, I knew exactly 2 Chicago Cubs fans. And then all of a sudden they won the World Series, and those hats came out from everybody. We're lifelong Cubs fans. People follow winners, not losers. And that's why it's also critical for Israel to win, and win decisively.
Thanks for watching. Drop a comment below. Don't forget to like, share, and hit subscribe to stay updated with our latest content. Until next time, stay informed and inspired. This is Dejobnik signing off.